Showtime. Showtime. What's going on, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix, and today is the 19th of September, a day to remember your Astro Weather. What a weird day yesterday was. Am I right? Like really fucking weird. Air Force jet goes missing. We actually talked a little bit about that on Sunday night. Not that specifically, but we were looking at the chart for the coming week, and I said Monday, Tuesday, something really weird is up, right? And that it had something to do with the 23rd. So I'm not even sure we have the full story on this plane, right? It's really hard when you have this Neptune Sun opposition going on in the kind of the collective, right? What the fuck happened? It's like this plane goes missing. Theoretically, the pilot ejects. There's rumors that it's being controlled and being flown to Cuba. That was kind of floating around in the air. And then they say that they found a debris field somewhere, I guess, in North Carolina. Well, that's convenient, right? And they showed pictures of it, and it looked a lot like Shanksville from the 9/11 sequence of events. So, really, who the fuck knows, right? But it's weird. It's really weird, and clearly some high strange involved with what's going on. We are cycling through Virgo, and we are almost done. How quickly the time flies. I hope everybody's having a good morning, and wherever you are in this realm, I hope that you're finding meaning and fulfillment, because sometimes happiness can be quite elusive, and happiness is temporary, fleeting. Meaning and fulfillment, and if happiness is part of it, all the better. This is us right here, 9/19/23, September 2023, 8 a.m., Austin, Texas, although not quite Austin. There's our sun moving into that opposition with Neptune, which I was talking about. Moved out of the inconjunct. We were in the inconjunct phase, but this is it's like, what's really going on? What is really happening? It's hard. It's hard to get a handle on where things are going with the canon of events, at least out in the world. For you in particular, what does the promise of the day look like? How'd you deal with that moon in Scorpio yesterday? Did you feel intense when you woke up? Were you obsessing over certain emotional issues that were part of your life and perhaps might still be there as the moon is in the second decan, putting it in the Piscean decan? This is one of these days where you got to watch out for unfounded fears. Don't bite at the latest thing, right? Try not to bite at it, because when the moon is in this decan, in the Piscean decan, not only do you get the kind of OCD quality of the Scorpio moon, but you also get the Piscean overlay, which is potentially very histrionic. When you get into Pisces, you get into kind of the mass consciousness in a lot of ways, and the moon is really the lever of mass consciousness. It represents our sort of collective ability to experience emotion, right? The two movers and the shakers in that realm are the sun and the moon. And the moon dictates in many ways how we emotionally show up, both on an individual level and on a quote unquote collective level. So we have a T square going on with the moon and Venus, and we have a little bit of Jupiter opposition action later in the day. The moon will oppose Uranus. This is why you want to like take some deep breaths today. This you don't want to get caught up in the intensity of the moment. Not like that. Sometimes life will bring you the intensity of the moment. That's just the way it is. But you don't necessarily want to have to court the conditions that are going to potentially throw you off track, right? Like this is the nature of the Scorpio moon. It's so intense and it's pretty fresh, right? Now, if you were to look up in the sky, you'd see that Shiva moon uh, representing with the Scorpio moon. And the opposition with Jupiter is, I think there's also some financial stuff going on here, especially with that Jupiter retrograde. And I think people are starting to freak out about every time I go by the gas station, the gas is going up. I'm like, really? We're not really traveling now. Like it's over. Labor Day is in the rear view mirror. We're headed into a period where people tend to be a bit more sedentary. And this is usually when gas prices reflect that. And that's not the case, right? So we're witnessing this continual ramp up of the cost of uh, basic living, right? So we have this Jupiter moon opposition and Jupiter retrograde. And I think that there is some meaningful, what's the word I'm looking for? I think there's some meaningful concern about where things are going financially. And everybody has something financially in their life, right? Unless you're like uber fucking rich. And even then you have to protect your money. So try not to get swept up in some of this emotional intensity. We have an out here, right, with the Moon Neptune trine, right here, Moon Neptune trine. And I forget, I think it might have been, I went to go see this channel one time back in the 80s. She was actually quite good. She was a friend of my girlfriend who would become my fiance later, my first marriage. And she was legit, man. Back in the 80s, there were a lot of channels. And you could sniff out the fakes from the people that were legit. She was legit. One of the things she said, and I thought that was really interesting to the group, was that there's a time where if you are feeling disconnected or stressed out and you're at work, one of the best things you can do is basically either go to the bathroom or find an unoccupied room so that you can recollect yourself, take some deep breaths, and meditate, right? Like you don't have to just meditate at 5:30 in the morning. And so this Moon Neptune trine really speaks to that. So if you find yourself getting caught up in the drama today, go away, shut the door, maybe go to the bathroom if you need to, right? Or if that's the only option you have, and close your eyes and breathe and step out of this is a nice remedy here with this Moon Neptune trine. So you can come back into the fray and you have more emotional equilibrium. So there's a nice little out here, a nice little remedy. We like that. Uh, we do have the Grand Trine back in action today. Sun Pluto trine, Pluto Jupiter trine, Pluto Uranus trine. So for all you hard-working mofos out there that are still trying to ride this Virgo wave, it's still there. Right. Okay, so I'm going to give you some very un-Virgo-like advice. Virgo is a sign that doesn't take credit for things. Oh, it's really nothing. It's really nothing. Oh, you know what? I'm just here to serve. Right? That's very Virgo is just wired that way. And it's not a bad way, honestly. Just trying to happen to be one. But today is one of those days where I'm not saying you should be self-serving, but if somebody pays you a compliment or you're being recognized or rewarded for your competency and your efficiency, own it. Like, own it. Say, thanks. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that somebody was paying attention, right? This is one of those days. And, I would not be surprised, and I'd love to find out tomorrow. I'm going to throw this out there in chat, and I'm going to check chat tomorrow. This is one of those days where you could get a raise. You could get a promotion. This is a raise promotion day right here with this nice big fat grand trine. So for all you people who've kept your head down and done the work of 2 to 3 people, which many of you have since the COVID crises, perhaps this is the day where you get the pat on the back and say, you know what? We decided to give you a little more money and we're going to bump you up. Now, there is a caveat in the Astros, and that is the Sun-Neptune opposition. And that can be recognition without reward. Or it could go the other way, which would be reward without recognition. So again, you have to be very clear, right, about expectations. But this is a good day. This is a good day for accomplishment, putting your head down, getting things done. Right? We talked about how all the asteroids moved the other night on the Sunday night show, and clearly we have Pallas at 2 Libra, which gives us real insight into relationships. This is a very good psychological kind of wide conjunction here. With the Sun in Virgo, which is all about healthy, and Pallas in Libra, this is a good day to sort out which of your relationships are healthy and which aren't. And don't make excuses. Like if you do that, if you're going through your checklist or your protocols, and you say, you know what, this is a healthy relationship. I want to support this relationship. Or like there's a relationship you're on the fence with, watch out. Because that Neptune opposition will say, well, they're not that bad. Well, when they've had a couple of tokes or a couple of drinks, they're pretty good. Right? Just be cautious and aware of that. Mars at 14 Libra. I think that's the degree of Ocasio-Cortez's Mars, if I'm not mistaken. And we have the inconjunct going on with Jupiter and Uranus. And it's kind of like, what if they had a war and nobody showed up? To me, it's sort of like people that are, and this might be something that could be helpful today as well. People looking for conflict. They're looking to start a fight. And what if you just weren't there? It's kind of like they're like punching the wind. This is one of those don't fall for the bait days, right? There's something about today with emotional crises. Just step aside. Do a little Tai Chi move there. Step aside and keep your head down. Let the other people have their drama, and step back and watch it. You might learn a few things. Let's see what else. Mercury opposite Saturn. That's an interesting aspect. And we have Saturn retrograde here still. Will be until November. Goes all the way back to 0 Pisces. And we have this reset with Saturn and Pisces. So Mercury Saturn opposition. This is again, Mercury in Virgo is very competent. And guess what? It is direct. We got a Mercury direct, boys and girls. And it's coming into trine with Jupiter, coming into trine with Uranus. Here's what I would say about this. If you have to bite the bullet and follow some orders, let's say you're not one of those lucky people that get some brownie points today, and you're kind of in the trenches, and it's like, shit, I have to do this. How come so and so doesn't have to do this? Right? It's one of those days. Just hang in there, get it done. Get it done, because that Mercury's going to come in and start trining Jupiter and Uranus. This is a bit of a test right here. It's a bit of a test. Just get through the test, and there's a greater chance for reward after this. So even if you think you're smarter than your quote unquote supervisor or boss or whatever they call these people these days, make them look better. Make them look better, because there is a higher potential for reward once Mercury moves out of this opposition and starts to get into the trine with Jupiter Uranus. So there you go. There's a roadmap for the day. It's a pretty good roadmap. And if you're in another part of the world and it's not your morning, I think that the Moon Neptune trine is the aspect you want to pay attention to, right? That's going to take you into the more relaxing parts of your evening. And I would suggest that you watch, uh, I don't know, something romantic, maybe gothic romantic, or maybe read some interesting material before you go to bed, and sort of charge your dream theater a little bit with this Moon Neptune trine. Stimulate your imagination, not too much. You don't want to be overstimulated, but I really like this Moon Neptune trine for the evening hours, and for some of you, that's where you're at. Okay, let's get into our star of the day. Today was kind of difficult. There were some people that I really liked that I couldn't, today is Joe Morgan's birthday. Joe Morgan is a great baseball player. He's probably one of the greatest second basemen of all time. Grew up in the East Bay, Oakland, California. And then he had a second career as an announcer. And I really liked Joe Morgan. And he unfortunately passed away in 2020. He wasn't terribly old. He wasn't young, but clearly there were a lot of older people still around. But Joe had a really interesting chart. I'm not sure what I could extract from his chart. He has a weird bundle chart. Let's see who else's birthday is it today. Twiggy, the model. Can I find how skinny she is in her chart? And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have Mama Cass Elliott. So it's a weird day, right? On the one hand, you've got, the big gal with the big voice, and on the other hand, you've got the skinny girl with the skinny dress. I guess she was the one that made the miniskirt very popular. So it's an interesting extreme, isn't it? Mama Cass Elliott and Twiggy. Brian Epstein, the manager of the Beatles, it's his birthday today. And I was trying to find the Beatles in his chart. I probably could have made a case for it. But today's star of the day is Jeremy Irons, because there's some interesting things about his chart. The actor Jeremy Irons. Why did I choose this movie poster? This is the movie that put Jeremy Irons on the map. It's an independent film. It was a directed by a Polish director, I think Skolimkowski. And Jeremy Irons and his mates are in this movie are portrayed as being Polish, and they're like the English version of the Mexicans, right? They're building houses, they're doing construction work, right? And that's the role that he plays. And the reason I chose this is because this is where, in a lot of ways, he really takes off. And what do we see in his chart? We see the moon at the apex of his chart, and it's in Aries. I thought, well, that's really interesting. This is the movie that puts him on on the map, and the moon is really the highest planet here. It also conjunct this vertex and Juno and Aries on the midheaven. So really interesting kind of cipher for literally getting on the map, right? Moonlighting, and there's the moon. The other thing that's interesting about him from his movie career is the connection between Venus and Pluto. And he he plays Klaus von Bülow in the movie where Ron Silver plays Alan Dershowitz, right? And Klaus von Bülow, of course, killed his wife, Sonny von Bülow. And I thought that that was a really interesting role for him, based on that Venus-Pluto conjunction in the first house. So for him, relationships are quite intense, just in general. Like he's not going to let go of important relationships in his life. The other thing that struck me about Venus Pluto from a cinematic perspective is another film that came out after Moonlighting, which was also quite a breakthrough for him and Meryl Streep, and that's The French Lieutenant's Woman. Again, you get a Venus Pluto conjunction here. And in that movie, he becomes obsessed, right? He becomes obsessed with this woman. If you haven't seen The French Lieutenant's Woman, it's worth watching. So no matter what you think of Meryl Streep as a person, it's an acting tour de force, an absolute acting tour de force. Um, so Venus Pluto certainly plays out in Leo in his movie roles. We have him as Klaus von Bülow, the theoretical wife murderer, right? And then we have him as the soldier who is literally driven mad by Meryl Streep's character with that very intense and obsessive Venus Pluto conjunction in The French Lieutenant's Woman. The other thing about Jeremy Irons' chart that is quite interesting, and I'm looking at this from a personal perspective, is that he has Saturn in Leo, and he has it in the second house. So when you look at his bio, he really comes from a working class family in England, and you can. I think a lot of people that have Saturn in the second house generally have working class roots. Like I have Saturn in the second house, and my parents were total working class. And I think you can make a case again for Jeremy Irons here with Saturn in the second house. And from his perspective, uh, his film output, like the guy's prolific. He's worked his ass off. You know, Prince has Saturn in the second house, or he had it in the second house as well. And again, he comes from, even though his father was a jazz musician, he probably had to have like a side hustle or whatever. And his mom worked. And he didn't grow up with a lot of money, right? So again, we have Saturn second house. So it's not a death knell with Saturn in the second house. But I think it speaks to the roots of people and where they come from. And here we have Jupiter in the fifth, which for him is I think is great because number one, it gets into some of this trine action and lightens up Saturn, right? So his way out of his working class roots is going to be through acting. And again, if you look at his first movie, Moonlighting, it is directed by a Polish director. And here we have Sagittarius, which represents foreign countries and international influence. And it is intercepted in his fifth house. Right? So he really gets to expand it through acting and through his roles. This is Leo's house, and Leo is the great actor, right? Then we have Mars down. And again, you know, let's go back to Moonlighting. And we have Mars in the fourth house. And what's the absolute best application for Mars in the fourth house? Building homes, fixing homes. And he has this south node. You know, it'd be really interesting to I bet you this guy has some nice fucking houses. I bet he has a lot of nice houses. And he also is known for his voice. He's got that very kind of smoky baritone English voice. You know, and we can see that here again with Mercury sextiling Pluto, Mercury sextiling Venus. Right? He's one of those guys that can read anything, right? And make money off of it. Like if you didn't have to look at Jeremy Irons, he can make money off his voice. Period. End of story. Neptune is down here, kind of the gatekeeper of his fourth house. Interesting. The family influences are quite interesting, and I'm wondering even if his father might have been a bit of a drunk, right? There to me, there's some potential for abuse here in the home. And again, I really don't know a lot about his home life. I just know that he comes from working class parents. But this is a really interesting chart, and again, moonlighting, right? And he has the moon up here at the apex point of his chart, and coming in and trining. It's trining his ascendant in Leo. And there's no mistake that this is the movie that puts Jeremy Irons on the acting map. Okay, there you go. Jeremy Irons, your star of the day. I think we're good. I think we're gonna get out. Check out our show last night over on Sirius Sports. Me and the dog father, Al Dog, we're getting into it, man. It was really good. We broke down some Aaron Rodgers, opening season, NFL. We went in some other areas too. We talked about Rome and Tartaria. Highly entertaining 2 hours. So you can break it down into small bits and pieces if you're into it. I will be over on Rumble at 9/11 today for 15 minutes of flame. And come join us over there. A lot to talk about, obviously. We got Russell Brand on the menu. We got the missing jet on the menu, all kinds of high strange. And who knows what will happen between now and 9/11, right? It's early in the day. The news cycle is fresh and young. It's always ripe for commentary. So thanks for being here. And don't forget our sponsor, True Hemp Science. It's funny, Jason Whitlock now has a CBD advertiser called CB. I'm not going to say the name, but he has one. And I'm like, oh, look at Jason. My mother uses it, my family uses it, I use it. I was there first, Jason. True Hemp Science. Look, I've tried some other CBD. I don't have to try a ton of other CBD. The thing that I know about Chris's CBD is how he's tweaked this stuff. He's like an alchemist. He's not just somebody who says, "Hey, there's a market here. Let me get into the market." No, he's an alchemist, and so he's got all these formulas that he's put together. Right. So go check out his website, trimscience.com. The sleep gummies are the best. If you have issues going to sleep at night, all you got to do is pop one of his sleep gummies and you will be fine. Absolutely fine. So check out truehempscience.com. You spend $100 or more, type in 15MINS, that's 15 mins, and you'll get some free goodies with your order. $150 more nets you free shipping and always a 30-day money-back guarantee. TrueHempScience.com, your one-stop shop for all things CBD. All right, that's it. I'm out of here. Have a blessed day. Have a great walk. If you're in another part of the world, may your dreams be uplifting, enlightening, and insightful. Take good care. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.